Good evening, everyone. This is Ron. It's Monday, a little after 6. And let's see, on yesterday, Nick did the teaching on Saturday and Sunday. And he was coming from Deuteronomy and chapter 6, verses 4 and 5. I think 4, 5, and 6, maybe. But he got through the one verse where it was talking about, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord thy God," and that's the Shama. Here means Shama, and I thought he did a good job of opening that up and clearing, talking about what hearing means and how that is an internal thing, as opposed to listening. This is hearing as though you're hearing it from the soul. This is a personal thing. This is a moving thing. This is a transformation kind of thing, and it is the type of hearing that you feel the rhythm. You get into rhythm with the universe, and so he explained that a lot better than I just did, but that's the gist of it, and then we took a look at Israel and linked those two things together. Israel is that part of us that we when we're going through our struggles, and that those struggles is seeing ourselves when we deal with those things that have always been important to us, those things that have helped shape us and define us and our pride. And so those things that we struggle with getting rid of, those religious concepts and principles that we've come to understand and embrace, and all those things you are confronted with as you see who you are, as you understand what it means to be Elohim, and see that the Elohim, that truth reveals to you, is not at all what we have learned and been taught, and the vision we have gained through religion. So that's the struggle part, and coupling those things together is where we were yesterday. So, but I'm going to ask, do you guys, have you seen anything, any questions or comments or on anything that may have come up today?
Well, I guess we probably touched on this, and I know we talked about the new heavens, but in Isaiah the 65th chapter, verse.
What's
Isaiah
65.
65.
6:5. Okay.
65, starting at 17. Where it's at 17, where my question really is. Got there?
I'm at 65 and 17. Okay.
Okay, it says, "For behold, I create new heavens and a new earth." Why does, and it says, "and the former shall not be remembered nor come into mind." Why does it say heavens? Could you explain the heavens if you can? And then
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. I thought you were done.
Yeah, and then in Revelations, in that 21st chapter, it says, "And I saw a new heaven." It's only saying heaven, and there it's saying heavens. So what's the difference? I mean, more than one. Is it going to be more than one heaven? Could you explain that a little more?
I don't see it as more than one. I see it as a periods of enlightenment. But I think this is referring to, I think what we see in Revelation is referring to these verses. But let me look that up a minute, 8064, and see if that gives any insight. Anyone
Isaiah
else?
what?
65 and 17.
Huh?
Give us just a second here, Kathy.
This is the chapter that speaks a lot of what you find in Revelations.
Yeah.
Most of what's in Revelations can be found in Isaiah, around, I think it's 64, 65, or 65 and 66, I can't remember. But it's in this area, these chapters that you find that. And what I've gathered from reading that particular verse in Isaiah is that when it says that, read it again, Kathy. I think I'm reading from a different version than yours. Read it again, please.
It says, "For behold, I create new heavens and a new earth, and the former shall not be remembered, nor come into mind."
That's saying the same thing it's saying in Revelation. A new heaven, and I saw a new heaven and a new earth coming down. Remember that?
Yeah, but now
for the old was no more. What he's talking about? Go ahead.
But
No, I'm sorry, Kathy. Go ahead.
But in Isaiah, it's saying heavens with an S on it, and in Revelation,
Floor.
heaven.
The idea of heaven, what heaven speaks to enlightenment.
Yeah.
So that's what he's talking about. Go ahead, Ron.
Yeah. No, I was just agreeing with you. I think he's talking about I'm going to create new periods of enlightenment for you. And this goes on with if you look, I was trying to read some of the other verses because he's talking about something, just building up to something. As we kind of pull out that verse, looking at all the rest that's around it. Verse 15 said, "You shall leave your name for a curse in my chosen ones, and the Lord God will slay you, but my servants will be called by another name. Because he who is blessed in the earth shall be blessed by the God of truth, and he who swears in earth shall swear by the God of truth. Because the former troubles are forgotten, and because they are hidden from my sight." So this is building up something. I agree with Pastor. It's referring to what we have already at least at some point looked at some of what was in Revelation. So
it's talking about the age of. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
It's talking about the age of peace, a time of peace. Look at verse 18. "Only rejoice and be happy forever for what I am creating. For behold, I am recreating Jerusalem as gladness and its people as joy. For I will rejoice over Jerusalem and exult with my people, and there will no longer be heard in it the sound of weeping and the sound of outcry." Meaning that the enlightenment that will come, this period of peace, this period of enlightenment that is being created, will bring a change to the earth, meaning a new consciousness, a new state of awareness in the earth. And as a result of that, people will rejoice in this being present with them, and they will be happy forever, meaning that everything will be in balance, is what he's talking about. It's no different than what we've been talking about all along about the new heaven and the new earth, meaning that a a consciousness and awareness that we have not before experienced.
I have a question after you guys finish answering Kathy's question.
Okay.
Okay.
Kathy?
I want to see something else there before we leave it.
Okay.
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 What I want to do is understand what the Old Testament is saying about new. It speaks this new means that it would be renewed or something that is repaired or to be rebuilt. When it talks about the old passing away, when we spoken about that, Ralph, it does not mean that the physical terrestrial ball called Earth is going to disappear. It means that there is going to be enlightenment in the whole of the earth for the benefit of humanity. And it means that the consciousness in the earth will change. Now, this is where the new creation in the earth comes in. When the attitude of men become one of unicity with the Creator, when the attitude of man embrace the enlightenment that is being provided by the Creator, it is at that point that we will see the earth differently. We will see the trees, the animals differently. We will treat them differently. And that is the renewing of the earth. If it has to be renewed, then it means that it was there before. And the question becomes, what broke it down? What caused it to become something that need to be renewed? What put the earth in disrepair? When we talk about the environment, that's one of the things. But the major thing that put the earth in a state of disrepair is the ravaging of the earth and the greed, the enslavement of people, or the idea of owning land, and the idea of it being demonic if you are able to communicate with the animals, and the idea of the spirit might tell you to do anything, that kind of attitude. All of these things are what has caused the earth to fall in disrepair. And the agent of disrepair in the earth is religion itself. And the thing that's claimed, the writings rather, that is purported to be the foundation of the various religions do not exist. The foundation that religions use to build themselves is a foundation that has existed from the beginning of the world until religion. And when Europeans came in contact with the writings of the holy writings, be they from Egypt or be they from Palestine, these writings, these sayings were used by the Europeans to perpetuate their selfishness. And that perpetuation of the selfishness is what created the disconnect from between men and the earth itself. What do I mean by the disconnect? It created the disconnect. How is it that, for example, Daufuskie Island in South Carolina, Daufuskie Island, the word Daufuskie means arrowhead. How did the indigenous people on Daufuskie Island know that that island was shaped like an arrowhead? It has been Daufuskie forever and a day. So how did they know that? Because of their interaction with nature itself. Someone suggested to me that they saw it through the eyes of the eagle, and that may very well be true. however, when Europeans began to develop this thing called Christianity and began to usurp the true meaning of Buddhism and Hinduism, when they began to do those kinds of things, and when they perverted Islam, all of these things created a disconnect from nature itself. So Isaiah is saying the day will come when the breach is repaired. The day will come when enlightenment will permeate the entire atmosphere of the earth. And that in itself would be the renewing of the earth. Does that make sense? Or is that clear? Questions or comments?
It makes sense.
It's clear. Yeah,
Yeah.
but I have
Yeah.
a question.
And after Evelyn, I have one.
Is your question pertaining to what we're talking about now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, go ahead. I just want to make sure that we were finished discussing it. If it were not, that's all.
Is
Go ahead.
Kathy finished? Okay. So are we the creators who will be creating the enlightenment, our higher self? Are we the ones who create the enlightenment?
Let me talk about that for a moment, if you will. There is no self other than higher self, right? So we don't have to use that term higher self, because the thing that we call a lower self is an illusion. It doesn't even exist. It is something that causes us to believe that we are disconnected from our Creator. When you realize that you and the Creator are one, when you come to the understanding and embrace the reality that you are indeed Elohim, and then there is no such thing as separating self and higher self, because your awareness is speaking to who you really are, and that is self, period. Does that help, Evelyn, right at that point?
It does. So
Okay.
I am the creator. I
I'm going-
am the creator of my, okay, go ahead. I'm
I'm
sorry.
going beyond that, okay? The enlightenment that is necessary to bring repair to the earth or to renew it, the enlightenment is already present. And the presence of that enlightenment is the substance from which we were created. So everything that we are seeing in the scriptures are being shown. All of these are already available to us. What's happening is an uncovering is taking place, or a recovery of our sight is taking place. And with the sight that's being recovered, we are reading with the eye. And the reading with the eye means that we are not reading words, we're experiencing them. We're experiencing the meanings of those words. We're experiencing enlightenment. We are experiencing the essence of Elohim, and that is predicated on how we interact with each other. I think yesterday, one of the things I mentioned was how do we become, what was that word I used? How do we become one with Elohim, or how do we become the essence of Elohim? It is by reminding ourselves that we don't get caught up in what's on the news. We don't allow the negativity in this earth to phase us, because we understand that it is illusionary, and we understand that the mind of children who has no sense of spiritual responsibility are the creators or the perpetuators of the adversarial things that we come in contact with. For example, I used yesterday an 11-year-old boy who the police shot. Elohim has empathy for both the police and the child and the family, and the child's family. So If we get angry and we want to do something to someone, we want to seek revenge on someone, then you're certainly not acting in the way that the essence of Elohim intends for you to be. The essence of Elohim realizes that this is a reprobate mind that needs to be reprisonated, or a reprobate mind that needs to be transformed. And that transformation takes place when we continuously seek to understand the true essence of what's written, as well as the true essence of our existence. And the more we are aware of that, the less we have things to trigger us, to be depressed, to trigger us, to be angry because somebody did something or said something. So in that regard, the more we do that, the more we are able to see and that the enlightenment that we are in this earth realm, or in this earth environment. And the more that we are able to see that, the less we become depressed, the less we become angry about the things around us, until we get to the place that we are not caught up in the entangled knots of what we see on the news and what politicians are doing and what racists are doing, and what the injustices of the system and the manipulation of religion. When we get to the place that we're not influenced by those things, it is then that we begin to see a clear passageway for the infusion of enlightenment into this earth environment. And until we get to that place, that will not happen. We will not see balance until we are balanced. It's like you are trained to be an auto mechanic, but you're always practicing, because your skill set is always being sharpened. When you are truly embrace the essence of Elohim, there are trials that we face, and some of the trials we face are heart-wrenching. Yet we are still supposed to hold on to who we are and what we know about our essence. And the more we do that, the more we begin to see a shift in the earth environment. We desire for everything to be exposed that could be exposed. That's done. So now our desire has to be for us to bring balance, and the balance that is being brought is enlightenment itself. But that doesn't happen unless you can say you're enlightened all you want to, but it's no different than saying that you are a doctor. Or you can say that all you want to and know nothing about medicine. You can say that you're enlightened all you want to, but if you're not living the essence of who you were created to be, you're not enlightened at all. Does that make sense?
It does. So let me ask you, everything is already, we are everything. So what's happening is, the more we become aware, it's like the more we begin to have remembrance, or we're remembering what and who we are.
Yes. What we are, the more aware we become, yes, the more we are seeing in that mirror the essence of our being. See, we were not created to be spiritual entities in the spiritual realm, or in the spiritual environment. We were created to be spiritual beings that lives in an environment called Earth. We were created to embody these graves, or that's called our body. And the only way that we can possibly transform this grave that we call a body, this corpse, into a living house, is through resurrection. And resurrection is when we fully embrace the essence of our being, and we do not allow ourselves to be manipulated or influenced by those external stimuli that seeks to influence or manipulate us. And manipulation comes in many forms. It's not just religion that manipulates us. Family does it also. Friends does it. The news media does it all the time. People on your job manipulate you all the time. And anytime that you say, I'm feeling some kind of way about what they said or did, that's manipulation. That's manipulation and influence are twins. They're so inextricably tied together until it's extremely difficult to separate them. Does that make sense?
Yes, and I appreciate the answer.
Thank you.
That was a good one.
Roy?
I agree with Evelyn. That was a very good explanation. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh,
I thought someone else had another question though.
I do, Ron.
Okay.
In talking about the scripture that came to my mind was about new wine in old bottles. And Pastor, am I understanding right is that in this spiritual world we actually exist in, as opposed to our illusionary? The illusion is the new wine we tried to pour into the spiritual world.
The old wine in new sacks,
Yes, old wine in new sacks.
or
So we
new wine in
tried to-
old sack. If you put new wine in old sacks, they go burst because
Okay.
wine expands and the old sacks are brittle and dry. So they're going to leak, if not burst completely.
So we tried to pour spiritual wording into, no, that's not what I want to say. We tried to take religious wording and represent it as spiritual.
We are trying to take enlightenment and put it in religion.
Okay, all right.
And it ruptures every time. And the rupture in religion is seen when people are so frustrated because they're not receiving anything. When people are tired of the same old dry stuff. Now, this is the kicker. The question becomes, how tired are you really? Because if you are engaging in religion and at the same time, you are desiring to be at a state of enlightenment to the extent that you fully embrace the essence of who you were created to be, that's not going to work. Does that make sense?
Yes.
It's going to drive you crazy. There is no way. Well, let me give you this example. When you go to a religious setting, be it a funeral, a homecoming, revival, no matter what it is, when you go to a religious setting, if you are comfortable in that setting, then you are not embracing enlightenment. You understand that?
I can see that.
Not just you, Vermeil. Guys, do we understand that?
Hear you. Yes.
yes,
Okay, because if we know that religion is not the truth of what the scripture is saying, and we are comfortable with religion, then we are comfortable with a lie, we are comfortable with manipulation, we are comfortable being influenced in a negative way in regards to what we deem to be the essence of our Creator. Does that make sense? You can't tell me that that you love humanity. And at the same time, you sit back and make policy and rules that's destructive to humanity. But yet, you say that you love humanity and you support humanity. I support the students who are in debt. I support the students who have this indebtedness to the loans, educational loans. And I'm gonna do everything I can to get them out of this debt. And the best, you're in $200,000 worth of debt, and you go get a $20,000 relief. And then you are looking for that $20,000 relief. And all of a sudden you find out that the very one who told you that they're going to do everything to relieve your debt load, they're going to do everything they can to remove that burden. Not only do they only give you $20,000 relief, but now they take away the whole thing by virtue of saying the freeze on student loans is lifted at the end of August in order to get something that they did not have to sell out to get. That means that you don't love humanity. That means that you lied to those students. That means that you are self-serving. That means that you are no different than the people you sold out to. That means that both of you are on the same page, and the only one who suffers are those who are not in power. There is no difference in that than playing games with thinking you're playing games rather with enlightenment, but in actuality, you're playing games with yourself and religion, because enlightenment don't play games. It does not do that. Enlightenment will stand on the sidelines and let you run yourself into a ditch. Enlightenment will stand still and let you make a fool out of yourself. Enlightenment doesn't play games. Either you are going to be committed to it and become more aware every day of your life, every moment, or you are not going to be able to be baptized in enlightenment, to be immersed in enlightenment. It's not going to happen. Does that make sense?
Most certainly. So, Pastor Richard, when we allow ourselves to be upset or agitated or frustrated by something that's going on, is that similar to saying we're choosing not to be enlightenment?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Being upset is not the problem. The question is, what do you do with it?
Okay.
You're going to get upset.
Okay.
So what do you do with it? That's the question.
Okay. So if you react to it, if you get angry, mad, and respond.
Out of your anger, out of your, yes.
Okay.
When you embrace enlightenment, you don't get to that place overnight, okay?
Okay.
You remind yourself who you are. Others remind you who you are. You remind yourself of what you believe. Others help you to remember what you believe. You talk to yourself. That's not who I am. I'm not going to let that bother me. Today, there was something that happened, and I felt some kind of way about it, and instantly, I remembered you can't allow anyone to influence or control you in that manner. You know who you are, and guess what? A deep breath or two, and it was gone. And I will keep doing that until I get to the place where it doesn't faze me at all. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
You're quite welcome. Let's not
Pastor, I
fool
think
us. Go ahead.
no, I was just gonna kind of add to that. I think throughout history, it is in our DNA to feel defeated. There's nothing that we the battles that we have faced as a people. There's things that we've witnessed, things that we've seen done to family members right in front of us. Those things we never really dealt with, and from a spiritual perspective, you don't think about it that way, but it's kind of therapeutic in a way that we get chance to look at these things and purge them, these things that we've struggled with. And I don't mean that all of it is something that you personally witnessed. I'm just saying that as a people, there's a lot on us. There's a lot that has happened to humanity that is in us. And part of the spirituality that I see anyway that helps me, and I struggle too, y'all, but I'm like Pastor, I'm getting better at it. It's understanding that defeated, that helplessness is not me. That's not me. When I see things happen, it's not a here we go again anymore. It's not, there's the frustration because I can't handle this or can't handle that. I see it now, and my question becomes, okay, just relax, and okay, what do I do with this? What do I supposed to do with this? Help me to see the answer here. What do I say to me to make me feel better, or to someone else to make them feel better? But I don't feel necessarily the helplessness anymore. I think that has been beat into us literally and mentally, and it is hard to get rid of. But that is why we're on the phone. That is why every now and then someone randomly sees some scripture that seems like they just haphazardly seen it, but it has a deeper meaning to it, and it leads us to a different place. So I think it's part of what we deal with, and I think it's all therapeutic when we talk about it on the lines like this. That's all I had. I hope that helps.
Spiritual essence is therapeutic. There is no way that the African could have survived without the depth of spirituality that's in its DNA. No way. No group of people on earth has ever gone through and suffered the indignities and the murderous plots that the African has suffered and survived. Even in this country, if you look at what happened with the indigenous people of this country, their survival rate is far less than that of the African, and the African was in the hands of the murderer all the time, under the authority of the murderer all the time. Without the spirituality of the African, the whole world would be insane, because we would be insane. All indigenous people would be insane. The trauma of the past, when you think about how close we are to the trauma of slavery. Slavery didn't end in this country in 1865. The last time that I read a recorded instance of slavery, it was in the 60s in Mississippi, Georgia, and the far corners of the PD area. That trauma still exists. And without the depth of spirituality that was engraved in us from the beginning, we would not have been able to survive, and we definitely would be able now. What am I saying to you? We are not spiritual beings who were allowed to endure slavery for no reason at all. Whether people like to embrace it or admit it or not, if the African doesn't survive, neither does the world. If all life came from the womb of an African woman, when the seed of the African ceases to exist on this earth, nothing else exists. This book was written as a guide to spirituality. It was not a book to make you feel good about yourself. It was not a book that you could read and interpret it the way you want to. It's not a book that you could close your eyes and meditate on and get the answer that you want. This book gives you the answers that you need, not that you want. And this book was written from an Eastern mindset. And I'm going to say something that going to probably upset some people. Frankly, it doesn't matter at this juncture. We're at a critical juncture now. The reason that this book is not understood by a European mind is because it was written with an Eastern mind. And regardless of how immersed we have been, forcibly immersed into this European society, our mindset, our DNA, spiritual DNA is still Eastern. That's the hunger that we have for a better way. You can go back to the first time that enslaved people were brought to this country, and you will find two things. There has been rebellion against slavery from day one. And the second thing that you will find is that the African always relied on spirituality for its deliverance. Even when it was given a Christianity that enslaved it, the African took that Christianity and says, go down Moses and let my people go. Tell Pharaoh, let my people go. Swing those sweet chariot. All these songs were spiritual. And yes, Christianity was the policy of enslavement. But the essence of the African was spirituality. And because of that serious commitment, because of that deep desire for spiritual understanding, the African was able to draw the energy from those words and survive as a result of that. Because there was something about those Eastern words having been written that brought energy to them, that gave us opportunity to be where we are right now. I told you about the church I visited in Savannah, where these scratch marks were on the side of the pulpit. And even though there were several different African languages of people attending that congregation, every one of them knew those words, though that scratches on the side was Hebrew. It was ancient Hebrew. How can I understand without a teacher? All of them understood what that meant. That same essence is with us to this day. It was not intellect that caused us to begin questioning what was being said from the pulpit or in the Sunday school book. It was not intellect that caused us to question what the theologians were saying and what they were writing in their translations. It was our soul that was crying out and letting us know there is a better way. And the crying out of our soul showed us the way the world is to be delivered. The way harmony is to be brought into this earth is for you to be in harmony with yourself and to dispense with all the anger and hatred and disdain you have for the enslavers. They are your children. Their descendants are your children. And you have to see them as such. Embrace who you are and understand that it is impossible to destroy Elohim. Our people, the African, would take any song and draw the spiritual energy from it. We cease to see the spiritual energy, or feel it, experience the spiritual energy in the song, where we began to become more educated through European education. When we began to look at the scriptures as a book of history, a book that Jews own, a book that Christians own. When we stopped looking at it that way and began to see that this book is our life. This book is the life of everything on this earth. And we must understand what is being said here. Not was being said, is being said. And when we begun to see what's being said, it does not make the plight any easier, but it does give us a clearer direction and a clearer understanding that trouble don't last always. There's a brighter day on the other side of this darkness. And that the mind of the African can embrace that more easily than anyone else on this earth. Don't preach at me. Don't tell me. Don't use those words. Don't translate those words for me. I'm reading the Bible and I'm getting what the Bible is saying. The Bible is saying nothing to you because it was written for the benefit of the enslaver. It was translated for the benefit of the misogynist. You have to get the original language to get the original truth. Embrace the reality that we are the descendants of the nation that was born on the waters, the nation that was baptized in a river of hatred, a nation that traveled through the deep valleys of racism, a nation who has endured lynchings, a nation who has endured lynchings and without hate, a nation who can forgive on the spur of the moment. Because deep down inside, the forgiveness that we're able to present is not because of something we read in the scriptures, because we don't understand what forgiveness is if we read it from the English translated scriptures at all. However, there is something in us that we know what forgiveness is about. And the reason it is so easy for us to forgive is because we know deep down inside we are Elohim. And we forgive as we are forgiven. As we are forgiven for getting caught up, getting entangled in those things that are a disadvantage to humanity, we must forgive those who got us caught up in those things. Because as Jesus said, Father of womb, universe, forgive them, restore them. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know who they are attempting to kill. They don't understand the essence of my being. They don't know that I'm here to redeem them. I'm here to save them. I'm here to show them who they are. They don't understand that. Forgive them. Let this not be charged to them. Leave them in a position of availability. So when our eye is open, we can bring them into the fold as the children that they are, so that they can be enlightened to the extent that they're no longer racist, or no longer misogynistic, no longer greedy. That all of these things, these attributes of Elohim can be found in them. They're not aware of that. And this is so deep and so real to everyone except the African and the rank and file European. All of it is, they know this. And that is the reason that you will not find a med school anywhere. Neither will you find a periodical chart anywhere that has melanin on it, even though it is the most powerful chemical on earth, in the universe, period. There is absolutely no life without melanin. None. There is no hearing. There's no thought processes. There is nothing without melanin. But you will not learn about it in med school. You will not learn about it as a chemistry major. You will not learn about it as a biology major. It is as though it doesn't exist, because those who wrote it off understand the power of it. And they understand that the power of melanin is able to bring redemption, and because of the melanin, they know that they have that I'm sorry, not because of melanin. They know that they have very little melanin. And that melanin has been made into something that is to be disowned. So we have to take charge of our essence so that we can become the essence of everything that seeks to live. I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions or comments, anyone? Everyone's questions answered. Do you have any follow-up?
Is that clear to everyone? That
Thank you. Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Well, maybe this is a good place to pause if there are no further questions, comments. Okay, a lot has been said tonight. Give us something to consider through our week, and yeah, a lot of stuff for us to embrace. I put it that way, not to consider, to embrace. Well, thank you for the questions, everyone. Thank you, everyone who had a question and a comment this evening. And I hope you have a great week. Look forward to Saturday morning.
thank you.
Thank you,
Appreciate you.
everyone.
Have a
Thank you,
good
everyone.
evening.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.